Yo, what's poppin' guys? Kaizuka here with another Genshin Impact video, and today we're going to be talking about the ElectroQueen herself. That's right. Today we're going to be going over a updated guide for Keqing. Now, look, I do have a guide on her already, as you might have seen on my channel, but a lot has changed. This is for AR40 plus. I'm at AR45 right now, as you could see. So let's just get right into it, and the first thing we are going to talk about today is the party setup, right? Now, this has changed a little bit since we first started. It's not too much different, but let's go over it anyway. So, of course, your main carry is going to be Keqing, right? Of course, that's her main role, main carry DPS. Now, next we have Fischl. You don't have to use her if you are lucky enough to have someone like Venti, right? He could work very well in this spot. He is going to do great as a support. But Fischl is amazing, amazing SSSSSSS tier support, right? She's going to help you get your energy back up to have more, use your ultimate and all that more often with Keqing. So I would highly recommend her. She is a great spot. Definitely don't feel bad about using her. And we just got one of her for free with the recent event. So, I mean, most people probably have Fischl, right? So definitely a good option here to pair with your queen. Then we have someone like Xiangling. You could use her, or you could also use Bennett, right? Now, when the game first came out, of course, people underestimated Bennett. No one talked about Bennett. No one, knew how strong he was. But now people know that he's a great character, so you could definitely use him here, right? I don't have him. If I had him here, I would. But Xiangling is also great. She's pretty established. Everyone knows she's great, so not too much to say about her. And then, of course, there's Xingqiu. You could use him or you could use Barbara here. Both are great as healer kind of support characters. Barbara, if you want to use more healing, then you could use her. You could use a Thrilling to the Dragon Slayer. I have a whole guide on Barbara, right? You could check that out. And I also have a guide on Xingqiu. Check both those out. Links in the description. But yeah, both of them are great. Xingqiu does more damage. Barbara does more healing. So there you go, right? Now let us talk about our attributes. So Keqing, there's one thing you want to focus on the most out of everything, and that is going to be your crit. Now let's talk about that for a second, right? As you see, my crit rate here is around 75%. You want to get as close to 100% as possible as you can, right? Now you might think, oh, that's just 75%, right? But Keqing has an innate 15% bonus to her crit rate, right? Through her ascension, she gets an additional 50%. So 75% is actually around 95%. So that means if you get to 85%, you're basically going to be at 100%. So really that means don't try not to go over 85% once you have her ascended a bit. You want to get it close, but if you go over 100, then of course it's going to be a waste because you can't crit more than 100% of the time, right? So try to get that high, but remember, keep that 15% in mind, right? And then of course the next thing you want to focus on is crit damage because you want your crits to do lots of damage. Of course, you want to focus on rate first because if you're not critting, crit damage doesn't mean anything if you're never going to actually crit. So crit rate and then crit damage, both are very important. Of course, attack percent is also very important. You want to have a high attack. You want to do lots of damage. You are a DPS. And then the next other very significant thing, especially because it's an Electro build, is of course Electro damage bonus. Try to get this as high as possible using your artifacts, right? So we try to get a goblet that boosts your electro damage. If you can get a gold goblet that boosts electro damage, use that. Upgrade it as max as possible. Try to get all the way to level 20 if you can, right? Definitely a solid investment. You want your electro damage bonus to be maxed out, okay? Now, the next thing we want to talk about is our weapons, right? So, I already have an in-depth guide basically detailing the difference between what I consider the two best weapons for Keqing, and that is the Black Sword and the Lion's Roar. Both of these are amazing weapons, right? You could use either one and be perfectly fine, so don't feel bad about using either. But my video, I talk about the pros and cons of each, when you'd want to use each one, what you want to consider. But for this build, we're just going to go and use the Black Sword, but definitely check that out. Link in the description below. Next, let's talk about our artifacts. Okay, so here's where things start to get a little bit spicy. You got a little bit of choice here, right? I am running the Gladiator's Finale and the Thundering Fury set. So Gladiator's Finale, 2-piece bonus, attack plus 18%, which is amazing. It's going to give you lots of flexibility in what you want to do. You're always going to be doing attack percent damage no matter who you're fighting. Next up, I'm talking about Thundering Fury. That 2-piece bonus increases your electro damage bonus by 15%. Again, electro is key. This is an electro build, electro damage. You want to get that as high as possible, right? So there's a few other options though. You could run 4-piece Thundering Fury if you want to. So the 4-piece set increases damage caused by overloaded, electro charge, and super conduct by 40%. Triggering such effects decreases elemental skill cooldown by 1 second. Can only occur once every 0.8 seconds. This is also a very solid set. So it's going to increase, of course, your reactions and such. The only issue about this set, right, is I mean, Keqing's not always going to be the one triggering reactions because she's inflicting lots of electro damage. Your support characters are also going to be triggering lots of reactions, so she's not always going to be triggering reactions. Essentially, sometimes Sing Cho's going to be triggering reactions, especially when he has his swords out. Xiao Ling's going to be triggering reactions of her ultimate, right? So it's not always Keqing. So this is a bit unreliable unless you're doing co-op content. If you're in co-op, then it's a lot easier for you to trigger reactions because all four characters are out on the field at a time. So whenever you attack with electro damage, and someone's already affected by an element, well then of course you're going to be triggering that reaction. So if you're doing co-op, four-piece Thundering Fury is great. But if you're doing single player only, right, Thundersealer is something to consider because the two-piece set, don't really worry about that. It just increases your electro resistance by 40%. Not too great as for doing damage, but the four-piece set is actually really, really nice. Increases damage against enemies affected by Electro by 35%. This is pretty good for solo content, and it can even work for a physical damage build. Now, you may be a little bit surprised, right? Wait a second. This is, increasing damage against, enemies affected by Electro, but enemies are pretty much always going to be affected by Electro when you're using Keqing, because this still counts for enemies affected. So if you use your E, and then you do your charge attack, and it causes the explosion, they're affected by Electro, but you're still doing physical damage. So if you wanted to do a physical build, you still could use this set here, but we're talking about Electro, and this has a bit of disadvantage, right? So if you're doing, if you're fighting innate elemental enemies like, the hypostasis, the slimes like the Cryo, Pyro slimes, all of those, right? Then you're not going to be able to electro debuff them. So this is not always going to help you out here. It's nice for solo content, single player stuff, but there are limitations to it. It's not always going to be the best. So independently, yes, you could get some really nice numbers and you could do some really higher DPS than you would with what I'm currently running, but it is pretty situational. And of course, the other consideration is that with ElectroQueen, I mean, your supports are going to be, again, triggering lots of reactions, which means that Electro is going to be removed a lot of times. So if you trigger a reaction, they're not going to have the Electro debuff anymore. So you're not always going to have that Electro damage buff against them. So that's why, as I said before, I would recommend two-piece Thundering Fury and two-piece Gladiator's Finale. You're always going to have that attack percent bonus no matter who you're fighting, single player, co-op, whatever you want to do. It's going to have that versatility. You're always going to be safe and doing lots of less damage. Let's talk about the stats for a second though. Of course, you're going to focus on attack, right? You want to try to get attack percent here as much as you can. Then for the goblet, of course, electro damage bonus is extremely important for Keqing. Try to get that as high as possible. Now for the crown, this is a little bit flexible. I would recommend crit rate unless your crit rate's already high because you got god rolls on your substats, right? If you already have a high crit rate, then of course go crit damage. And if somehow you have high crit rate and crit damage, I mean, you could go attack percent, but I would still probably focus on, getting that crit damage as high as possible if you have a good crit rate. So that's my recommendation there, right? But let us next talk about the constellations. As you see, I'm at C0, sadly, right? But this is, if you're well, then this might be something to consider. So, recasting Stellar Restoration, while a Lightning Stiletto is present, causes Keqing to deal 50% of her attack as AoE electro damage at the start point and terminus of her blink. This is pretty nice, right? I mean, electro damage is always a good thing. In Extraction, when Keqing's normal and charge attacks hit enemies affected by Electro, they have 50% chance of producing an elemental particle. Also nice, so you're going to get more recharge. Forcing Reformation, increases the level. Attunement, for 10 seconds after Keqing triggers an Electro-related elemental reaction, her attack is increased by 25%. This is, of course, nice because more attack equals more DPS. I mean, pretty simple. Beckoning Stars increases the level. And then finally, we have Tenacious Star. When initiating a normal attack, a charge attack, elemental skill, or elemental burst, Keqing gains a 6% Electro damage bonus for 8 seconds. This is really good. Really, really, really nice, right? I mean, you always want to do more electro damage bonus. Always, always try to get that as high as possible. So if you're well and you can't afford to, to get this many Keqings, then I would say go for it. It's gonna be very worth it. The more constellation you have, the better electro build is going to be. So if you have no constellation, physical build is also very competitive. If you want to see a physical build, I'd be happy to make one. Just let me know in comments if that's something you want to see. Anyway, let's talk about our talents next. And of course, you do want to upgrade all of them as much as possible. It's nice to have all of them, high as you can get them. But if you're going to focus on one first, I would say focus on normal attack, utilize swordsmanship. The reason for this has to do with her play style. So, Keqing's a pretty simple character to play. So you use your E ability, you teleport, your damage is converted to Electro, and then you pretty much spam charge attacks until you're out of stamina or until you ease back up. And then of course you use your ultimate whenever it pops. So you're going to be doing lots of charge attack. Charge attack is probably your main source of damage, to be honest. Of course, it'd be Electro, but still going to be counted as charge attack damage. So as you see right here, this increases your charge attack damage. So by increasing this, you're pretty much increasing your DPS as a whole. Stellar Restoration is what I'd focus on next because it's going to have a higher uptime because it pops faster, so you're going to be able to keep that out more often. And then finally, Storage Sword. Don't let it lag behind too much. You want it to be high level because when this pops, it's going to do lots of damage, and you could pretty much save yourself sometimes with this ability. So really all three, but again, the order is going to be 1, 2, 3 in terms of importance, right? But yeah, guys, that is it for the build itself. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of gameplay. But yeah, guys, that is it for today's video. If you liked this, please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more Genshin Impact contents. And, of course, let me know in the comments, what you think about our queen, our ElectroQueen Keqing. But yeah, guys, that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the support. Kai Zerker out. Peace and booyah.